Hi, welcome to episode 4 of our virtual leadership training. So today we're going to talk about intentionality or living intentional, and what that means is that you're doing things on purpose, or you're doing things deliberately. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, that's not always the case. So when we talked about in one of our previous videos that life is like being on that raft. Well, being intentional means that you don't always go with the current. So, sometimes it's easier just to go with the flow of things and land wherever you land. But, if you're really living intentionally and you understand that where that current's going isn't in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish, you're gonna have to paddle pretty hard to get out of that current. So that's what being intentional is all about. It's about taking control and really steering your life in the direction that you want to go. So, a lot of people have this misconception that where they are today is a result of a few major events in their life. And intentional people understand that that's not the case. That where they are today is a result of every decision and every action and every choice that they've made up until that point. Everything matters, and everything works together and impacts each other. So a good quote from Paul Dirac, he said, "If you pick a flower on earth, you move the furthest star." Right? That's pretty broad when you think about it, but it's so true. What you did 10 years ago may be impacting you today, and you don't even understand it. You've never even thought about it that way. I know that's the case for myself. And intentional people. When you look at some intentional people, think of the upper echelon, the top tier folks of all fields. They're all intentional people when you really look at their lives. They schedule when they go to sleep, when they wake up, what they eat, the things that they watch, who they surround themselves with. They're very intentional about everything in their life, and they really break everything down, and it's pretty amazing how well they can put metrics to everything that they're doing and how it impacts who they are. And so I guess the first thing that we need to do if we're trying to be more intentional is, number one, we need to understand what we're trying to accomplish, but number two, we need to understand who we are as people and what our codes are. All right. If you put a room of 100 people and you ask them, does everybody have integrity? Everybody's gonna throw their hands up. Yeah, everybody's got integrity. But then if you ask that same 100 people if they know somebody who doesn't live with good integrity, they're most likely all going to raise their hand too, right? It's kind of funny how that works. Maybe some of those people are in the same room as the others. So you're not always who you think you are. Your actions will speak much louder than your words. I don't think there's anybody who wants to live life in a wrong way or whatever, but I do think there's a lot of us that are not very critical of ourselves, and that there's a lot of us, including myself, who will make excuses for why they're not their best self or not who they want to be. I'll give it for instance, and I find myself guilty of this one as well. I want to be a healthier person. I want to be in better shape, and I will consistently make an excuse for myself that I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm working too many hours, and when I get home, I want to spend time with my family, and yada yada yada. But that's probably always going to be the case. So when am I gonna take action to be the person that I want to be? I'm not holding myself accountable to that. I have to figure it out. And that's another thing that you won't find intentional people doing is they won't place blame and they won't make excuses. Because the minute you do that is when all your growth stops, right? Blame and excuses are statements, and all growth stops at that point. So stop doing that, and I'm going to try to stop doing that as well. But if you want to become a different person, you want to become your best self, you have to do things differently, and you have to do different things. That's all there is to it, because we are what we do, not what we say. The road to hell was paved with good intent, right? I'm sure a lot of us have heard that phrase, and it's so true. So there's a difference between intent and intentionality, right? Intentionality is putting action behind those intents. So self-evaluation is key. We need to be evaluating the things that we do at least daily, but we need to be thinking, does this action line up with my better self? We need to be comparing our current self with our better self constantly, and make sure that our actions and everything line up to being that better version. So, everything matters. I can't stress that enough. What you eat, how much you sleep, the way that you talk, the words that you say, all of it. It all matters, all right? So what I want you to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to think about your day, and I want you to think about the things that you did today, who you interacted with, how you interacted with them, and I want you to think about, does that line up with your better self? Would your better self be proud of who you were today? I know my better self wouldn't, and that's the case. I never want to be complacent. I never want to be stagnant. I don't want to fall into the status quo, because I want to be constantly growing. So let's reflect on our have-tos as well. And have-tos are just what I'm saying, the have-tos. What did I feel that I had to do today? And then I want you questioning all of those things. I want you really digging deep and figuring out, is it really a have-to, or is it something that I just perceive as being a have-to? Am I doing this because I heard somebody say at one time that if I wanted to be great at this, I had to do this? And if it doesn't make sense, then you need to change it. All right? So, be mindful also of what you're consuming as far as media goes. Think about the things that you watch, the music you listen to, where you get your news from, all of those things, because they will impact your behavior. I can't think of who I'm citing here, but what they said was, thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become habits, and habits become your character. So, what you're intaking is definitely going to impact what you're able to put out, and ultimately who you are. So we have to be mindful of those things. Be careful of if you got that negative friend on Facebook that you follow, that whether you believe it is or not, it's probably impacting you one way or another. So be mindful of that, and if you have to unfollow them, then you unfollow them. If you spend too much time watching Netflix, it's probably not going to line up with you being your best self. So limit yourself to that a little bit better. Okay? I'm not saying that don't have fun or anything like that, but if we could all up our game when it comes to being more intentional, we're going to be better leaders singularly, but we're going to become a better organization, because the great organizations have great leaders, and great leaders are intentional leaders. So, let's be more intentional. Let's quit putting things off. Let's quit saying one day, and let's start acting. Let's start acting as our better selves now. Okay? Our people deserve it, and we deserve it. So, again, feel free to leave your comments below as always. I hope you guys found value in this, and until next time, be intentional, all right?